What's up, guys? We are back and we've got Josh Snow. Doesn't really need an introduction, but I followed Josh for years and years and years. We actually went to your mastermind out in Denver. I think it's probably the first time I met you in person, or when you spoke at Copy Accelerator, actually, I think is the first time
Oh
we
yeah, I
ran
never
into
saw
each
that.
other. But yeah, I mean, obviously you built amazing things, so it's great to have you on. You're a little out of the niche direct. Like we have some ecom guys, we have some, but you play all over the place. You play an affiliate, lead gen, ecom, so we can take this a lot of ways. But yeah, how would you describe where you're currently at in the online space?
Oh man, I started when I was 13, 14, and made my first million at 17. So I'm 32 now, about to be 33. So about almost 20 years of internet marketing, e-commerce, lead gen. I also built and sold an agency. That's kind of what helped me get started. And now I own affiliatemarketing.com. So kind of full circle. And then obviously I'm, most popular, I guess, for sharing, building out Snow. We've done hundreds of millions of dollars on Shopify. We're now in Costco, Nordstrom, etc. And then I sold my last lead gen company for $70 million that I bootstrapped in the insurance space. So affiliate marketing, lead gen, Snow also has 5,000 creators that earn up to 20% of every sale on TikTok Shop. So we drive billions of views for our products through social commerce, social media. I'm also in the coaching space as well. I have a TV show called GoingPublic.com. It's an exclusive now with X. We used to be with Wall Street Journal and Entrepreneur Magazine. Season 3 just wrapped up with over 100 million viewers. So that was a lot of fun. We brought on Mike Tyson and some just awesome characters. And in addition to that, and legends. And we also brought on 3 entrepreneurs building amazing stuff. So this is my third full season. I'm a host of the show, investor and advisor to Going Public. So goingpublic.com is completely free to watch now on X. We have an exclusive. And so, I create content. I walk the walk. I build the businesses. I've been in e-commerce as long as I've been in lead gen. So kind of playing in a couple spots all across the board. I've never taken a dollar out of Snow. So I've had to be a little bit busy burning the midnight oil in terms of building lead gen operations. I'm also a programmer, so I built and sold software companies as well. And I advised a lot of software company owners on 9 and up to 10-figure exits. So between 100 million and $1 billion. Same with e-commerce. So kind of in like 3 main spots, I would say, that I focus on throughout the day. But I'm very blessed. I came from nothing. So for me to be able to play in multiple spots, I still feel like I'm getting started even 20 years later, which kind of keeps the kid alive in me, the energy, the drive. And it's a privilege to be able to share on a platform like yours, share on a platform like a TV show, because I believe that the American dream, anyone, anywhere in the world can access the American dream through the mindset. We have YouTube, X, Instagram, all these platforms that have really revolutionized what we can do, and now AI. So for me, it's just, I'm so excited to continue working on the project. Snow's about to be 10 years old. And so that's a business that I burned all the boats, solo founded it, bootstrapped to $100 million, and kind of the rest was history. And I've done that a few times, not to the level of Snow in the ecom space, but yeah, ecom, affiliate marketing / lead gen, and then info, coaching, content, TV, kind of those 3 buckets I would say are the, kind of the main makeup of what I focus on today.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, I have a hilarious story if we want to go way back. I went to Arizona State for a semester, lived in my dorm for a year at Hasse, and I
No.
have an email with you from 2015 maybe that
No,
somebody
earlier.
I was in like some group somewhere and they were like, "Oh, you got to meet this guy. You got to meet this guy." And like dropped me his email and I sent you the classic like emails that are, that's like, "Hey, I would love to, pick the brain, do the call," like just the worst email ever. And you
Wonder if
sent
I
back
have
this
been
like,
somewhere, dude. I gotta
"Oh, I'm
look.
sure you do." And you sent back this like long form, like thought provoke, and I was like, I don't even know how to respond to this other than like,
Found
thank
it. Ryan Robert Clogg.
you. Yeah.
Here it
Yeah.
is.
Dude, isn't that
It's
crazy?
here we go. Can I read it?
Uh-huh.
Is that you cool with that?
You can
Okay.
read your email, not mine. I already said how bad mine is. Yours is
Oh
thought. Yours is
God, I want to
actually
read yours because
no, absolutely not. Yours is still good.
oh my
Yours
God.
is still real and good.
Well, I'll summarize yours then.
Okay.
Essentially, you
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
already did. After meeting with so and so, your work ethic admirable. I'm currently a business entrepreneurship major. Da 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 da.
Best
A
major ever.
passion for value creation and business in a whole. Look at that, November 19th, 2014, 12 or 15, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Close to right, 11
That
years ago.
crazy?
And then I responded the day after. Look at me.
Yeah.
Uh, Being an entrepreneur is exciting, but becoming a significantly successful entrepreneur is incredibly difficult on many levels. Facts. I recommend reading Above and Beyond ASU. I've never let my school interfere with my education. A Mark Twain quote that I threw in there at you. Currently, I read on average one book per 2 weeks. True. With that being said, action is even more important. True. There's nothing better than putting words into action. Listen at least 2 to 3 times as much as you talk, and don't listen to everyone. Choose your friends wisely. Who you hang around will no doubt influence you. Continually push yourself and become your own biggest competitor. Figure out something you're good at and can make money with. This will be a long list in the beginning, but in order to become better than everyone else, you will have to focus. Another thing, get out of school as fast as possible, hopefully without a horrible GPA. Every minute in there costs you a lot of money as an entrepreneur unless you are creating while attending. I was able to make it without dropping out because I was able to run a quite large company from my dorm room. With that said, I did value my time at ASU and Barrett. Though not even 2 years went by, I graduated at 20 and came in with almost 0 credits. True. Yes, anything is possible, but the best results are saved for those who work the hardest and the smartest. Another thing, create value first, then you can focus on saving the planet. There are already a large amount of nonprofits out there and plenty of Tom's shoe type models. It's okay to do something unique, and there is no need to follow the crowd. Going against society is part of becoming a successful entrepreneur. This means working on weekends while others party, while your company gets the resources it can to grow. The prize for doing this right is well worth it. Volunteer and donate as often as possible while creating value. Never forget where you started. Regarding business, I'm almost done here. This is gold for me because
This is good, dude. I'm telling you, I reread it the other day when we were DMing. I was like, I know it's somewhere.
I was 22 years old or something. I don't even know how. Yeah, 22, I think at this time.
Yeah.
This is right before starting snow. This is crazy. So I say here, it's okay to make money, and you should, lots of it. Just create a massive amount of value in exchange. There's nothing wrong with running insanely profitable businesses. Just remain ethical and drive value. It's okay to change. It's part of what makes us human and alive. Just be conscious of the changes and learn from them. Don't make a mistake twice. Lastly, learn from your successes, not just your failures. Your success is the only thing worth learning from, since it is what can help you become successful again. But just because you're successful at one thing doesn't guarantee success at another. It all comes back to working hard and working smart. Good luck, Ryan. Whoa.
Good luck.
Whoa, look at that. November 2014, dude. I'm so
Crazy.
glad you brought that up because that gives me chills just reading your message, right? And then reading my message after that. That is absolutely true and really kind of foreshadowed, the last 14 or 11 years, 11 years of my life and certainly your life.
Yeah,
So would you
100%.
look at that?
You've been building. And that's where, I mean, a majority of this can go. This whole conversation is just like, you're a builder, plain and simple. I mean, you share the stuff, you share the funny stuff, you share the in the weeds stuff, you share the huge stuff, you share the random little small stuff. Like it's cool to do that. So snow, if we just want to start there, I do want to go into lead gen. I do want to go into these other pieces, but snow specific. So like, that was just an idea. At that point, you had already sold the agency, right? Or you had already been, okay. So you decided to, hey, I'm going to upfront this thing with 250 or whatever to build this thing out and just go full bore?
Essentially, I mean, I was building stuff up till then anyway. I've always been building websites at 13, 14 years old. I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't even know you can make money from it. None of that stuff. I just grew up poor. Being poor sucks. And I couldn't get a job at 13, 14 years old. We couldn't afford a computer, so we didn't have one at home. So I used the school computers, and I took whatever class would get me access to a computer because I was always fascinated by computers. And over time, right? So I built this agency. I started JVing with plastic surgeons, law firms. One of my best friends, Tommy Mello, we built GarageDoorNation.com, which is still around today. I met him when I was, I think 18. I just turned 18. I met him. We talked for like 6 hours straight at a like grill spot or whatever. So we just hung out. And so I was building stuff. I was JVing. I started in e-commerce kind of 16, 17, 18 with Tommy. We kind of built something from scratch, a brand. And I was kind of at a point where I was going into jaw surgery. So I knew I had to have it. It's not like an accident happened. I just had a lot of jaw pain. So I was going into jaw surgery. And as an entrepreneur does, looking at, wow, a lot of people have teeth. And I looked at, the products that were in front of me, and they had artificial colors. This was, 10 years ago, right? Now everyone's like, does it have artificial stuff in it? But I was just looking at it and I'm like, why does my shampoo have more vitamins than my toothpaste? Or, why does it not look aesthetically? And by this point, I was making enough money where I could, afford nice stuff. And my oral care I would hide it underneath the sink if people came over. And so there's something missing here from the aesthetic standard, but also from like the formula standards. Shouldn't this be better? Man, woman, child, brush every single day, twice a day. You're ingesting this stuff more so than even your shampoo. It just didn't make sense to me. And of course, it's always, could I do this better? Shouldn't this be done better? Well, what am I going to do about it? Now I felt responsible. So I went through jaw surgery. My jaw's wired shut for 2 weeks. I'm sitting there losing my mind because I like to be moving always. And I said, you know what? I'm going to kind of do some research into oral care. We obviously didn't have AI or anything, just Google, how many people have teeth? 7 billion. How big is the space? Well, it's held by two or three large, companies that kind of control the space. And I said, you know what? I think that's a challenge big enough. Almost every odd stacked against me. And I said, maybe that's something I could focus on for, in this case, 10 years. And I would kind of think of that because I was good at building something, couple years, sell it, build something, couple years, sell it. I wanted something I could explain in one word: toothpaste. What do you sell? Toothpaste or teeth whitening or whatever it was. I wanted a quick one answer, and I wanted an excuse to bring together world-class talent that I could work with, learn from, learn with. So I said, okay, if we take on the big Goliath of oral care, could we even be halfway right at some point? So that was kind of the initial thought. And I kind of floated the idea to a couple business partners at the time. I said, I want to call it Snow and blah, 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 blah. And, I called up my dentist, my orthodontist, and my oral surgeon, Dr. Bruman, Dr. Daniluk. And I said, hey, I want to start something in your space. They knew I was an entrepreneur at the time. They're like, why is this kid pulling up in a Lambo on Wednesday at 2 p.m.? So they were asking questions too, right? And so we became fast friends, and they said, yeah, dude, we'll help you. The only thing you can really do, since you're not a dentist, is teeth whitening that we do in the office. But a lot of the methods are kind of old school. I think there is a place there. I think you can figure it out. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to work. And so I set aside $100,000 for inventory, a little bit of research, kind of building what became the teeth whitening kit, which kind of evolved into a billion-dollar industry now. But that was putting together a formula that would whiten similar to a professional environment. Nobody loves going to the dentist. We should, but nobody loves going to the dentist. So if you could do it at home, without the pain and sensitivity of other systems and other methods, maybe there'd be something there because I had super sensitive teeth. And if we could do it without compromising on ingredients, packaging, etc. So that was my idea. Nobody wanted to join me. So I became a solo founder, bootstrapped the business with $100,000. And I went out, created the ads. We put together a little website to kind of get it started. And it sat with me for about a year and a half. And I could not get this earworm out of my head. I had to do it. I was compelled over and over to do it, even though nobody wanted to do it with me. Everyone's like, sounds dope, but like, no one's going to change their toothpaste. And the more they said that, the more I wanted to do it. And so I said, okay, this means everybody is afraid of doing this. This might be perfect. And I had slipped in a little bit of kind of like depression and anxiety after selling my agency because I went from working 24 hours a day to not working very much the next day after you sell the company. And so I kind of slipped into this depression. I'm stuck at home in jaw surgery, started doing the research and created what is now the Snow Teeth Whitening Kit, but created a teeth whitening kit, the first version, put the ads out and said, I'm going to spend 100, $200 on ads. Let's see if there's something in there. And of course, I had been studying copywriting. Dr. Cialdini was essentially mentoring me at the LA Fitness. He'd work out every morning at 6 a.m. And so he wrote Influence and now Persuasion. So I was very lucky, in that aspect, being in the right place at the right time. My personal trainer was really good friends with Dr. Cialdini and his wife. And so I had to wake up really early while I was going to college, taking 22 credits a semester. I would wake up and I was so tired, but I knew if I didn't get there by 6, I wouldn't have a chance to say hi to Dr. Cialdini and work out with my trainer. So I'd get out there, do all of that. And so I wrote the copy, put the ads out. And then within a week, sales started coming in. And then I said, well, I was at Starbucks one day and I said, let me gas it up a little bit. Let me spend $1,000 today. Yep. Let me spend $5,000. Yep. And to date, we spent over 100 million just on Meta on that one offer. So it started from that, and it kind of we now have award winning. I'm a patented inventor, like all of that over the last 10 years, from the very first idea of wanting to do it to where we are today with millions and millions of customers. But it was just me, some copywriting. Back then, there was a tool called Ad Espresso where it would whip up 60 variations in one click of an
Hmm.
ad. Facebook. And obviously, I sold my agency. I had run tens of millions of dollars of ad spend for my clients and some of my own stuff, but mainly for my clients. So I had the skill set. I was paid to learn. And I used those skills to build what became the foundation of what is now Snow. And everyone was like, well, you're calling it a 4-letter word. You're never going to get the trademark. You're never going to get the username. Now we're at Snow, 4 letters everywhere. We have the trademark. And so Facebook.com/Snow, Instagram at Snow, TikTok at Snow. So everything is at Snow now. And that was where it initially started. Jaw surgery, happenstance, me wanting to create something that was nearly impossible. And it truly has been, even though I haven't taken a dollar off the table, it has taught me more and built me into the Josh Snow I am today. Obviously, the company is valuable now. And at some point maybe we'll go public. Maybe we just hold on to it forever. As long as people have teeth, we can sell them stuff. So we built the number one rated oral care brand on Trustpilot, BBB. Almost no one returns our products because we've always focused on efficacy first. We've never used fluoride in any of our products. So a lot of these things that from the beginning were initial ideas, then we just started listening to the customers. It became, well, I can't package all the goods myself. I need help. And I can't do customer support by myself anymore. I need a customer support department. So very quickly, it became that. And I think in the first 3 full years in business, we broke $100 million. And it started just me in, my bedroom with some
That's
product
crazy.
wanted to sell. And that was my dream, was to create something that would inspire millions of people to think bigger, get out there. I would say oral care still is. That's why we have very few competitors. It is very, very, very difficult. But there are 1,000 other spaces, and I get to invest and play in those spaces. But Snow has always been my baby, and it always will be my baby. And we've been able to create so many products and just, innovate the market, really kind of create a trend that became a movement that has now, become a billion-dollar industry. The teeth whitening kits, this toothbrush has red light, purple light, blue light. It kills bacteria while it's wireless charging. It has a face brush. So in the shower, you can brush your teeth, brush your face, tongue scraper that vibrates. I mean, it's got, 500 things in here, right? And so that was always the goal, is to really disrupt oral care as a direct to consumer business. We now are in Costco and Nordstrom and all this stuff, but really was to create a ripple effect. And I think we've done that in the last 10 years. But again, I still feel like we're just getting started.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Like again, back to what I said at the beginning, like you're just a builder. And I want to go into that world of like I've watched videos of you that are crazy deep on copywriting, like you just said, and offer creation, and then like economics of certain things and lead gen world of media buying. So like as you've grown through this, like obviously it's team and development of that and like how you're able to lead and do that. But where is your honeypot? Like what is your like you before we pop on this, you're like, oh, I just scraped this and this, and I see you do screen shares and you have 14 tabs open and you're like downloading softwares and like who cares if I have, $9,000 a month in subscriptions on trials? Like you just play with everything and you're in all of it. Like
Yeah.
how do you like zoom out, zoom back in? Like where do you sit on that thing, like you get it XYZ far and then you pass it off to team. You have different teams for
That's a big
everything.
part of it. That's a big part of it. You can't do it all alone. Although I think with AI, you don't need as many people nowadays necessarily, right? But when you have great people, you hold on to them and you develop them. You develop together and you grow together. But I think the honeypot and the idea there. I read a book. One of my mentors, Mr. Mort Fleischer, he sold his last company for 15 billion here in Arizona. He's in the REIT business, real estate investment trust, and he recommended when I was very young, I was 16 when I met him, and he recommended that I read a book by Dr. Maxwell Maltz called Psycho-Cybernetics. And Psycho-Cybernetics is, you probably have it right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
that
heard
one
that.
is
Yeah, I can reach it.
all about mental plasticity, right? So it's all about the way I think about it. I'm big on analogies because it's how I learn and it's how I teach. And so it's like a camera, zoom in, zoom out. A lot of people, including myself at times, get stuck on that zoom factor. So we're either zoomed in too much, so we're micro, or we're too macro. And so being able to zoom in and out is part of that honeypot. And then I have an insatiable hunger and thirst for incremental knowledge. So I like specific knowledge. So I can't read every book. I can't listen, especially nowadays. There's a podcast for everything. So I like to focus on just in time information. So if I'm having an issue with hiring someone, I'm going to hop on LinkedIn, scrape their cell phone number, shoot them a text. And of course, now I'm Josh Snow, so people respond faster. But back when I wasn't Josh Snow, I would hound people to get shortcuts to information that is specific. And so, whether it's to a person, a book, a podcast, now there's AI, so it's even faster. So, some nights I'm up till 3 or 4 in the morning, up at 8, because I'm sitting there on ChatGPT doing deep research. Then I'm running Claude, ChatGPT. Then on my laptop, they're all running at once. And so now I can digest information a lot faster. But back in the day, it was YouTube videos, books, and kind of where the honeypot is I try to go macro and understand the market just like I did with snow. A lot of people have teeth. How big's the market? Is it growing? Who are the big players in there? And then I'll zoom in. For example, we used to scrape. Now we have an AI tool that does it, but I would go in and scrape all of the Amazon reviews. Every review I could get on the competition and then put them together in kind of like either a pie chart or a pivot table and understand where is the purple ocean. So we know blue ocean is there's no competition. I've invented some way to get XYZ that no one has ever done. Sometimes that holds you back from execution because clarity comes through progress. So you have to be moving. And so for me, I kind of zoom in enough to get excited, zoom out a little bit more. And then once I have a really good prospectus of what I want to go after, then I start to look to recruit people, mentors, advisors, team members, partners that may see this in a way that I see it. And if they see it in the way that I see it, or I can get them to see it that way, and they're excited about it, they're probably someone that I should keep close to me as I kind of venture in this direction. And then we move into progress. So let's create the product. Let's get samples. If it's lead gen or affiliate, let's build out the brand. Let's build out the landing pages. What's the deadline? Because I like speed. So we have 30 days to launch ads and it needs to be profitable. And we need 2 people that we're missing. So we need to talk to someone that might know those 2 people that can refer them. Now there's like Mentor Pass, which I'm on all these platforms too, but Mentor Pass, Intro, Clarity, all of these platforms where you can, and LinkedIn is the best, where you can shortcut information very quickly by asking someone in 30 minutes podcast. So being able to digest has become that much easier. But for me, I'm also just intellectually curious. So I'm a big investor in weed testing and weed testing labs. Because I knew the macro trend, marijuana. I believe that at some point America will legalize it recreationally, which means that we do have to keep it safe. So investing in the labs where you cannot market, which is one of my strong pillars, my superpowers, it means that I don't have to zoom in as much. I can stay zoomed out, place a bet, and go back to what I was doing without it distracting me because focus is still important, like I said in the email. So that's kind of where I do it. And then I try to diagnose if something's not moving in 3, 6, 9 months. I have to look at opportunity cost. And by that point, even if you have a lot of money into the deal, you either have to make it work in 30 to 60 days. What does that look like? Or you have to move on. So, Seth Godin's The Dip, and there's a bunch of books around when should you quit something and move to something else. You're not a quitter. You're actually a champion because sometimes you have to change the process in order to get the progress that gets you the results that you started the whole thing for. And so that can look a lot of different ways. That's why I'm in oral care. Hair care with Kim Kardashian's best friend, Anala. We've got lead gen. We've got affiliate marketing. We do coaching. So we've got all these different places where I get to learn also from others. When I'm coaching, I get to also learn from my students, right? And some of them are doing 50 million, 5 million, 1 million, 500 million. So that's a really cool piece of it as well. But the honeypot, I would say, and finalization of this thought is you have to get comfortable with zooming in and zooming out. You have to find just in time information, specific information, which is now easier than ever with ChatGPT and YouTube and podcasts and X. Otherwise, money is made in production, not in consumption. So I consume enough so that I can become a producer in that space. And if I can't produce fast enough, I kind of let it go and I move to something else. And I've learned now that I have many interests. The next opportunity is right around the corner always, but luck equals preparedness meets opportunity. So I stay prepared by constantly feeding my brain, and I treat my brain like a supercomputer. So sometimes the brain gets viruses. You have to clean it out, antivirus. And what you put in that computer is very important. The TV shows, and don't get me wrong, I like sloppy reality TV sometimes where my brain doesn't have to work. It's not like I'm working all day and this intense kind of thing. I enjoy what I do. I love the sport of business. And like an athlete, you do have to treat your body like a temple, your mind like a temple to make sure that you're feeding that just in time information. And if you're the CEO or leader of your business, it's important for you to not necessarily have all the answers. You hire a great team that have better answers than you a lot of times. That's an amazing outcome. But you want to be able to work on the business, work in the business, and it's your business to see a little bit what's around the business. And so zoom in, zoom out, kind of that lateral mental plasticity that I focus on. And it's become natural now. You practice on it. Anyone can do this. Doesn't matter where you come from, who you are. If you're a billionaire, it doesn't matter. That I think is the most common trait I've seen, even with the billionaires who are my friends. Some are my mentors. That they're kind of similar. They're reading the news at 5 a.m. They know everything that's going on in global politics, and
Yeah,
they know
right.
more than me in those areas. But then you hang out and you kind of throw it in a basket, and we all learn from each other. But yeah, I would say that's kind of the honeypot. You have to figure that out. Anyone can learn this within a year's time. You do have to, audit your time. One of my favorite things to do with students is let's look at where are you spending your time? And sometimes my students are making 5, 10, $15 million a month in profit. And they're like, I don't need to audit my time. I said, well, let's just do it together. I do it every month if I can, right? If not every quarter, I'm looking at, am I spending too much time consuming on social media? Am I spending too much time watching TV? You kind of write that down and you create space to have ideally deep work. Meetings don't lead to deep work. They usually lead to group think, which is the opposite of deep work. So I try to study that. Cal Newport has a great book called Deep Work, but really getting a space where you can have 2 or 3 hours a day with no interruptions. You can put music on, but no voices. I usually listen listen to Rufus the Soul. Put some Rufus the Soul on, me and ChatGPT and a couple articles, podcasts. I listen to everything at 2 times speed. So I'm just digesting. And then I'll kind of just let your brain kind of take a nap, go to sleep, let your supercomputer do what it does best. And then progress is after that. So, how many people have a much higher IQ than me? A lot. But how many of them are producing necessarily results, in terms of entrepreneurship? So the thing there is always, it's not about the smartest person in the world. And it's not just about the hardest working person in the room. It's a little bit of both. And if you can grasp those two and kind of never give up on that, you can give up on businesses that aren't profitable or things like that. You never give up on that. I think you eventually kind of crystallize this muscle of being able to talk about a lot of different things, and you seek being not the smartest person in the room. So I love to not be the smartest person in the room. I look for that because for me, I get to learn and I get to also add value. I'm always looking to add value without asking anything in return. So you kind of build this ecosystem
Yeah.
over time. And then, I think instinctually is ultimately the answer once you're really good at it. You know when to strike and you know when to back up. And so you kind of figure out how you react to this zoom in, zoom out.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. The big question, like even selfishly, for the progress, you have
Yeah.
all that stuff. I'm with you. Like enough nicotine and caffeine and 4 in the morning and ChatGPT sessions. It's like, okay, cool. I have enough context where I'm like, I'm ready to attack on it. But
Right.
then deploying it through team or finding it or getting it done in that way is like the hold. So for me, it's like, who do you hire new? And then the other question is the focus, right? So it's like those two things. Like one, how do you actually progress in it? How do you actually produce in it when let's say it's within the core business. Let's say it's within snow and you're in crazy ideation mode or deep research or whatever you want to call it. You find XYZ and you're like, I want to deploy this. Is it you inserting yourself or is it just inserting yourself to the team to then, hey guys, run this and you're checking in on it? And then side thing, and we can go to this after because you're like so thoughtful on these things, which is amazing. The next is like the focus of it. And again, selfish question of like, ooh, lead gen, always been right here, for example, for me. And it's like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Focus on the main business. Focus on the main business and grow that bigger versus having multiple, in the fire. So how do you go about progressing these things through team when, because eventually you have to, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. You can't, I can't, I'm a builder, but I don't build this product by hand in my garage, right? So like you have to, if whether it's a physical product in lead gen and affiliate marketing, you're leaning on other your buyers, essentially your merchants, because we don't own a life insurance company and a Medicare insurance company and an auto insurance company. By the time you build that, you have to choose the game you're playing. And I think that helps a lot. So the first I'll answer is when it's in the main business and you have an idea like on deep research, you know what, we need to add this to our toothpaste. We need to do this. If it's something, I always look at the next best affordable. So those are the three kind of, and you can swap those around, but I always just say next best affordable. Is it next? Well, we want to have a flying toothbrush that flies to your house with a drone. Is that next or is that a little too early? Is that the best? It might be the best. Oh, yeah, of course. If people didn't have to, we have a toothbrush, you just brush your teeth once a month and you don't even need to do it. That could be the best, but is it next? And then ultimately, is it affordable? Affordable to the business. So right now, can we afford the distraction? Can we afford the cash outlay in order for us to attack this? Can we afford hiring team members to attack this? And so next best affordable inside of the business is generally how I gauge and judge whether it's something that I should pursue. A lot of times, if it's something that is close to next, it is the best and we can afford it soon, even from a distraction perspective, then I will, as the leader of that idea and that thought process, bring it to the table. But once I have and ChatGPT does mock-ups now and PDFs and all this stuff. So I'll put together kind of a pitch to my team and say, guys, I've been thinking about, and we have every week, we have a CEO vision call where me and the executive team were on there. And that's an opportunity for them to hear it directly from me. It's an open, safe place where Josh's idea brain can pitch these ideas because ultimately I need buy-in from my front runners to kind of get the rest of the team in on it. And so I'll bring them examples. I've done the research. And here's why I think it's next, here's why I think it's best, and here's why I think it's affordable in comparison to what we might be thinking about otherwise. And then from that point, if the team is nodding or if they're right away like, hell yes, this makes total sense, then I'm going to support them in implementing a plan. How soon could we get this done? Who would we need in order to get this done? Or do we have everyone we need? What would we need? Software, etc. And what's a budget that makes sense for this? So then you kind of put it to brass tacks of how do we bring this idea to fruition? Because ultimately, it's just a great idea means nothing without execution. We all know that. And so, how do we execute on this? But I need buy in from my team if it's an existing company. Otherwise, there are some projects I work on in the middle of the night that are not next, but I do believe they will be best. And we can afford them, but they're not next at the moment. And so having that patience, in my case, 10 years, we started with one product. Now we have dozens of products, one by one. And our customers used to ask, when are you coming out with the toothbrush? When are you coming out with this? Well, it's not next and it's not the best next product. So kind of combination. We can afford it, but it's not the next best. And so that judgment layer helps in the business. Once I get buy-in from the team, then it's my job to jump in wherever they're stuck, build accountability through the buy-in. And then, if they're running into an issue, I can check in. How's it going? Are we behind, ahead, or right on track? We're right on track. Okay. Does it make sense to slow it down or speed it up? I think we should keep it right where it's at. Okay. If you believe we're hitting the deadline, what can I do to help you? And so as a leader, it's that servant leadership that ultimately helps. I'm always going to push for speed. I'm always going to push for excellence and always going to push for more. But having that, I become sometimes a cheerleader. Sometimes I'm right in there with them building. So just depending on the project, that helps me identify it. Now, if it's outside of the business scope, so for example, cannabis, I wanted to invest in cannabis. So I go, do I start a dispensary? Do I start a THC infused drink or gummy or brand that I put into dispensaries? Do I start a payment processor? Do I start a cannabis friendly bank? So, how do I enter this space? Because it's stuck in my head. And a lot of times, what I'll do is in that case, I found a lab that was profitable, really liked the people, and I invested a good chunk of change and then some more. So now I can go to sleep knowing I own whatever, 15, 20% of that business. And as long as they keep doing what they're doing and I help them where I can kind of lay it to rest a little bit. I'm now in that space. I can have these conversations and it lays it to rest. The other trick that I use more often than investing in the 2 dozen investments I have is because I can't invest in every company, but what I'll do is I'll go and find a stock and I'll say, okay, I really believe that energy storage plants are going to be big. Do I go start one? Well, that might cost 10, 20 million to start. And I don't know enough in there. I'd have to recruit a team, da, 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 da. So then I go on ChatGPT now and ask, what are the best stocks that I can buy? And even putting $10, $100, I go to sleep better. I put $100 in the top 5 stocks in that space, go to sleep. And now every day when I kind of scroll through my stock portfolio, I can see the horses in the race. And if something changes, I feel like I'm already in that space because shiny object syndrome will kill an entrepreneur and a dream and a business. So one of the ways I found to essentially be an antidote, a kryptonite to that is to put $10 on Robinhood, Public, whatever app you're using and say, okay, I believe that, coffee shops are going to be big. Okay. What's coming up? Your Black Rock coffee bar is they're filing for an IPO at $1 billion valuation. Do I like their coffee? Do I go there? Do I like their ethos? All right, I'm gonna put $100 in some pre-IPO stock or $1,000, depending on how active I want to be in that. And then eventually, a year from now, 2 years from now, it forces me because I have money in that race, even $100. You're now in that market essentially, and so it allows my ADHD brain, but also just that kind of shiny object syndrome to relax and allow me to focus. Follow the money is the number one tenet that I always try to keep in my mind. My mentors have taught me that at a younger age. I didn't listen for a while. Every time I lose, they always say, don't mess up the base. So if you have a job that's paying you, they'll mess up the base. You're just going to have to work on weekends and nighttime to replace that job. And then once you replace that job, you're going to have to work on nights and weekends to, and especially when you have more time than money. Once you have more money than time, everyone has the same 24 hours. You have to be that much judgmental. And if we look at the highest paid people in the world, including Warren Buffett or the most wealthy, they are paid not because of their 8-hour shift. They're paid because of judgment. And judgment comes from wisdom, which comes from experience, yours and other people's, ideally other people's, especially the hard stuff. So, becoming a good judge of where I should place my money, place my time, most importantly, and so I think if it's inside, that's the process where we go to execution if it makes sense. And then if it's external, I try to get it out of my mind. Now, if it's something that stays in my mind, I go, what would need to be true in order for me to pursue this more aggressively? Should I invest or partner up with someone that can be an operator in that business so I can find the very best operator? Supply a little bit of cash, supply my brain and my network, and now every week I'm getting a report. I can help where I need to. That's like the midway. And then the full way is okay, well, I'm going to have to sell snow or sell something so that I can go all in on this because I really believe the stock isn't enough. Investing a little bit isn't enough. I need to build this out. And I
Yeah.
believe that's something I want to spend 5 to 15 years on. So it can't be just a quick hustle. It has to be 5 to 15 years. And is it worth it? Otherwise, your opportunity cost, once you're in there, it's hard to zoom out as easily. So what if you spent 10 years on the wrong business? That's scary. It shouldn't hurt you from, taking action, but that is ultimately should be a big fear as your opportunity cost goes up in time is are you working with the wrong people? Are you spending time on the wrong things? Therefore, the pressure of that judgment becomes super important, which means you have to sharpen that really strongly. And so at this point in my life, I say no to 99.9% of people, things, opportunities, even speaking engagements. We get them all the time. And it's like, I got to fly there, got to do this. I won't be able to do deep work in the hotel. And right now I'm in a sprint. So you have to have that gauge. Otherwise, you will get spread thin. And, nobody makes $1 billion being spread thin.
Yeah. No, 100%. That's you blow my you're hilarious to me. So and I have to ask, you hold up that box. How do you because if you're only going to the leadership level, right? How much inclusion do you have in the completion of said project? How deep do you go down it where you get that box and you get Mach 1 and you're like, "Wow, I don't like the words on there. Wow, I don't like the sizing of this and that." And like that's a delicate game, right? Where it's like all of a sudden you're micromanaging or you're like capping over, you're that CEO or you're that whatever you are, where it's like how far can you bring something to the end or do you let it happen on the internal? And then my question
Sometimes
for
you let it happen, man.
you sometimes, yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you let it happen, right? If it's, bills got to get paid, or there's
Yeah.
accounting, or there's certain things that is not my ultimate forte. And I used to say, "Oh, I'm not a numbers guy." You got to become a numbers guy or numbers girl. If you are the leader of your organization, you have to become not world class at everything, but you have to be damn good at almost everything. And it takes time, but you don't want to ever be in a position where it's like, well, I'm not the numbers guy. That's so and so. Oh, I'm not the product person. That's so and so. If you don't obsess over it, it will die at some point. Businesses die for two reasons: lack of liquidity. So they'd run out of cash, whatever. And then lack of relevance. So they become irrelevant. So Blockbuster to Netflix. They didn't run out. Eventually, they ran out of cash. One, they follow each other. It's both.
Yeah.
So it's like you either run out of cash and therefore you lose the relevance because you're just not around, or you lose the relevance and you slowly or quickly run out of cash. And then it kind of all goes together. So for me, I can't focus on every single detail, but best believe in a company like Snow, I'm looking at as much as I absolutely can, not to necessarily micromanage. I've got a phenomenal team, but I'm also working with the direct reports as well, not on an hourly, daily basis every time, but I'm in all the Slack groups. I'm in every single channel, and I do the little catch up on Slack while I'm laying in bed, and there's some TV playing in the background. I'm seeing, even though I don't need to respond to everything, I am digesting everything that is going on in the organization at all times as best as I can. Wherever I need a little more clarity or support, or if I need to push some urgency in some area, I'm primed to do so. Otherwise, I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know what's going on. There's so many business owners that don't know what's going on. I've been guilty of it too. When you got too many things going on, you got to focus on the cheese. You got to focus on what is going to take our business to have either more liquidity or more relevance. And so in my company, I lead with high expectation, low pressure is the way that I lead. My executive team leads with more pressure with similar expectations, but we try to hire people that have high expectations of themselves already, because it's very hard to teach an adult to have higher expectations of themselves. And that for me helps a lot. Hiring even less people, but better people is a lot easier for me to manage. And so I am looking at every word, the colors. We're doing a final review. And the way it works is if it's based off data and it's statistically significant, that makes the decision for us. If it's going off of opinion, then it's going off of my opinion because I pay the bills. So it's like, we make it so it's easy and safe for people to be entrepreneurial in the organization, but know that at any point I can step in with them and help them in those scenarios to kind of move to the next step. And everyone in my organizations feed off of progress. The more they can get done in a day in various areas, they're all multifaceted. And that's something I learned from John Paul DeJoria, founder of Patron Tequila and Paul Mitchell Cosmetics Hair Care, is you cross train your people, because if you ever go into a downturn and you need to get rid of people, you go, well, why don't you do design? Since you learned how to do that, we still need design. We don't have to get rid of you. Why don't you do this? And so triple train is what I try to aim. My execs and partners in the business are like 12 trained. So they have like access to everything, hyper transparent. So we run off of radical transparency, which is a huge tenet of, principles and all of that, Ray Dalio. But ultimately, I have to obsess. Otherwise, it falls behind and I'm upset. And ultimately, yeah, you can blame your employee or your contractor, or your agency. At the end of the day, you started this thing. And you're the one upset about the progress, et cetera. You've got to chime in on almost every area. That's why I think that in order to sell hundreds of millions of dollars, I mean, I am a little bit of an anomaly, but I never start too many things at once, right? It's like start slow, get it to $100 million in sales, start a lead gen, get it to millions of dollars in profit, sell it, go back in, zoom out. And so I think you do have to obsess over it. And if you don't have a good exec team or a good partner or partners that can help you in those areas, you will get overtaken by a competitor, because they're going to obsess over the softness. I mean, we look at the viscosity of, and I had to learn all this stuff, but the viscosity of our toothpaste. Is it too thick? Is it too thin? The foaminess of our toothpaste. Every single review, I have a daily email that I check every day, that we see all the reviews of all of our brands. And I look at every single one. And if it's a negative review, I screenshot it. We talk about it in Slack. What can we do better? And so I think you kind of have to be able, again, zoom in. And then other days we're zooming out and I'm working on a deal with Costco and the sales team. And like but then we zoom in again and we're looking at 1,000 pallets and 1,000 Pantones of purple that are going to go on the package for Costco. And so zoom in, zoom out. And I think
Yeah.
you have to do that at this scale. Even if you have the best team in the world like I do, I think you do have to be responsible for that as the leader. And nobody likes a leader that's just like, nah, I don't know about that. I don't like figure it out, dude. You have to figure it out. You don't have to be the doer that actually executes every piece of that, but you need to be able to have a fluid conversation at that level with every person, including the janitor. You need to know like what kind of soap are we using? What kind, the organization, because we know that if our pallet racking is better organized, our team members will have a better time doing what they need to do. And everybody is focused on mastery of doing their job as best as they can. And those are people that we hire. It's not, let me do the bare minimum just to not get fired. Those people eventually have a spotlight on them, and it's not even me. The team will spotlight them. So that's kind of the massaging that happens. But I'd love to say that And I think Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, I think no matter how many hundreds of billions you have, they're probably equally as obsessed. Now, at that level, they have essentially like CEOs or general managers of departments that they can do like a weekly report and very quickly in a couple hours make those decisions with that GM and the exec team for that department. So it does eventually, it's not like you have to be obsessed forever and ever and ever. But one of my mentors, Bruce Halley, started Discount Tire and richest guy in Arizona before he passed, 4.6 billion, owned 100% of the company. And for 50 years, they obsessed over how to do tire changes and treat the customer right, tuck in the shirt, free tire air checks. They obsessed over that. He went to every single location and would scout, talk to all the local people, go to the diner. And I don't know, maybe that's just how I was raised and what I've seen, but I think that there's a pattern there that if you're just kind of, I'm going to build $100 million oral care company, and I'm just going to work on it for 2 minutes a day, and it's just going to keep soaring. Someone's going to eat your lunch at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, 100%. That's what we're feeling right now, in ours, right? Is like exactly what you're talking about there. And like, where do you dip in? Where do you dip out? Where do you not micromanage? Where can you just allow things to maybe take a little bit longer on execution than you could rip in a night with, your stimulants or what? But like allowing that to happen through. You said something in there, and I've heard it on, I don't even know where, but somewhere where I consumed your content around the lead gen piece. So I've heard you say a couple different things, both in the focus that happened within the business, I think, and please tell me if I'm quoting wrong because this is
Yeah.
paraphrased, but basically along the lines of you saying that you built out other um, verticals within that same business. So insurance and then maybe something else along those lines. And then when you went for exit, they only wanted like the core business. So you wasted X amount of time or money or whatever to do that. And then the other more recent one I've seen you talk about is how, you got the exit and it was, yes, a big win and it feels amazing to do that. But also you actually preferred the cash flow more than you did the actual just like, number in a checking account. So as you navigate that, like that kind of goes back to the focus thing, that goes back to the judgment decision of win versus cash flow versus like how do you look at that now? Because you're saying the same thing with snow. It's like this is a forever thing, this is maybe an IPO thing, this is an exit thing. Like there's always a number at some level, but where are you at with that? Your frame on that?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, every business has its own kind of playbook, essentially. You build that playbook as you're building it. I didn't know exactly. Of course, I always wanted to have a product in Costco. I love Costco, and Nordstrom is dope. And like, of course, we want to work with those guys at some point. And Snow, and then in the lead gen side and affiliate marketing, we wanted to add value to the marketplace. So. And I think one of the reasons we were able to get such a high multiple on our exit is that we sold to a public company or a public competitor, and we were much smaller than them, but they were very excited to acquire the business and to bring on the team that we had built and the systems and some of the software. But we focus on calls only, so we did about 1.5 million calls a year that we sold, and instead of form fills, because I had just like with oral care, I was stubborn in this thought process of if someone gets a form fill, you now have to go and chase them to get on the phone. If I could just for a little bit more get you a hot live transfer of a call, isn't that better for your organization? You need less people. So I'm always trying to add value and think of my customer, right? It's really putting yourself in those shoes. And then that journey starts to evolve as you chase that focus of how do I add more value? Let me listen to their pain points as well. How many form fills does it take for you to get, closed deal? 10. How many to get on a call? 3. I go, well, you're paying $40 a form fill. 40 times 3 is 120. If you just pay me 120 for the call, then you don't have to hire extra people to be chasing. Your team members aren't like sitting on an auto dialer or something. Oh, they hung up on me. It's not working. It's a hot live transfer that's dialed in 1.5 million of them per year that we were able to drive. And we internally generated about 99% of that. So it was all of our own campaigns, 20-person team, including me and my co-founder. And we got to build that business out and system out that we built a product through the calls that every other player wanted. And the word got out that it's like, hey, there are these guys that are able to drive 100,000 calls in a month to your business. We would break call centers. It was just so many calls coming in. And then you have to then work with the call center to make sure that they have the right capacity to, inbound all these calls. Are they treating an inbound differently than an outbound call? Who are on those calls? Let's listen to the recordings together and optimize. So there's a lot inside there, even for a lead gen type of business or affiliate marketing. Now, if you want to just throw up a landing page, send it to a business like Snow and get 20, 30% of every sale. You kind of don't have to worry about shipping. You don't have to worry about customer support. You don't have to go that far. But one of the things that I always try to add into anything I'm working on and when I'm coaching, I think about brand equity, goodwill, because I've studied probably 100 or 200 from Harvard Business Review, a little tactic I use, hbr.org. You can go and buy case studies for $9. And so you essentially get a Harvard education through the case studies, at least by reading what they're teaching. They're a case study driven business school, and I got to, take a couple of classes at Harvard and kind of realize what was going on there. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to buy every case study that I think is interesting to me. And I'm going to go through them. And I spent a lot of my life studying mergers and acquisitions, because an entrepreneur will generally make the most money in their life and life-changing money for them, their partners, shareholders, investors, through an exit of some sort. And so reversing from the exit, not building to exit necessarily, but building to build something that is so good that you can exit it, but it's so good you don't want to exit it. And then you've got a bidding war. And then if you don't want any of the bids, keep growing it and then go back to the river next year. And that's what we did. Me and my partner got to a point, and I was driving on the freeway. He calls me and he says, hey, we're beating forecast during the deal negotiations. Let's ask for some more cash, because that's not fair to not get the benefit of what we've been doing in the background here that they're going to get. And they were kind of pushing back, and me and my partner look at each other, or we're talking to each other. He goes, hey, are you cool losing the deal? Because if we push back, the bankers are saying that they might just pull the deal entirely. And I said, dude, we're making millions of dollars. We love what we're doing. We've systematized it where we could work a couple hours a day to run this business. Why don't we, maybe this is the right deal. And so you're in a position of optionality. And that's something growing up poor, I didn't have a lot of. And so it's a privilege to have options. And so I try to kind of roadmap, and I've got big whiteboards everywhere. I'm at my home office right now, but in my office, the HQ, we've got whiteboards everywhere. And so we'll do a brain dump, and we carve out on the side, we call it the parking lot. So anything that is getting, okay, guys, we're spending 5-10 minutes or too much on this. Let's run the parking lot and we'll tackle it tomorrow or next week. Let's keep going. So progress, I think, regardless of what you're working on, is important. I do believe that you got to be realistic to a certain degree, and then you also have to be insane to a certain degree. So you have to, like, again, it says zoom in, zoom out. It's
Yeah.
always going to go back to that. And you're like, if we can do 5 million, we should be able to do 10 million. If we do, 10 million, we could do X million. And so you have to also take care of yourself. And that's one thing that I'm a big, big advocate of, is whether it's therapy, yoga, ice baths, sauna, fitness, eating healthier, hydrating. You have to take care of yourself, because I've learned that I'm racing a marathon probably to the day I die, and God willing, I can live to 100 with all this longevity stuff. So, I've got 60, 70 years left of running this marathon. And luckily for me, at this point, I've been running this marathon long enough and successfully enough that it's no longer just about the money. But keeping in mind that in the sport of business, how do they keep track in football? Points. Basketball? Points. How do we keep track in business? Profits. So profits profits cure all, not sales. Sales help, but profits cure most problems, because even if you're overloaded on people, you have too many people in your organization, or you have too many softwares. If you made an extra 100,000 a day in profit, even though it's not the principle and the right thing to keep being overloaded and bloated in your business, it would probably solve that. If you need an extra $50,000 and you made that today, it solves that problem. Sales, on the other hand, not all sales are treated equally, but all profit is. And so profit is super important. So I use kind of some of these, like, principles that I've learned in my life also by getting kicked in the teeth so many times by doing things the wrong way, tens of millions of dollars of losses, tens of millions of dollars of bad investments, of trying to do too much at once, and kind of becoming that very disciplined entrepreneur that I am today. And still every day I'm working on it. I'm a student too. So I think you have to have the mental plasticity, work on that, be willing to let things go, be willing to build a business profitable enough that maybe at some point your opportunity cost supersedes the growth you want to achieve. Because if you're the leader of the organization and you start kind of checking out, your team is going to start checking out, and then the market's going to check out on you. And then you're going to go, man, I could have sold that thing for X amount of money. And now I'm in here the last 2, 3 years rebuilding it. It takes a lot of energy and effort to do that. So being honest with yourself, I think, is also a really big thing. One of the things I teach, all of my students, and I have even in all of my videos, a TV show, I show the compound interest calculator. Because when I talk to people, even on the street, and they recognize me and they're like, I want to make $1 billion, people think in base 10, 10, 100 billion, 10 billion. So I sold my last one for 70 million. It wasn't 100, it wasn't 10, it's not a billion. But at that time, it made a lot of sense. And at the multiple, I'm buying time. So if you sell your business for an 8x multiple on your yearly profit, yeah, you could have grown it. You could have made more. There's all this stuff, but you just bought 8 years of time. So now the next day, you don't have to do anything. And now you have all this money and you don't have to do anything. And you bought essentially 8 years that you would have been in that business, and you never know where it's going to go. And so I bought a brokerage a couple of years ago called Deal Flow from Flippa, and that allows me to get access into, again, my digesting the information. I get to see maybe 100 businesses a week that I see their profit, their team, everything. I mean, from concrete companies to garage companies to e-commerce companies to lead gen companies. So I get to learn very fast, and I get to coach through that too. But I've learned that focus is very, very important. And there's a video of Warren Buffett and Bill Gates saying the same thing, focus. Like, what's one word that you could be successful with? And they both on their own said focus. So focus doesn't mean Warren Buffett reads everything. So it's not like, oh, if he was focused on one stock, he wouldn't be investing in all these other stocks. He's focused on what is your business? What is the goal? And I think for a lot of people listening, perhaps their goal might be to retire their mom. It might be to pay off their parents' house, pay off their own house, pay off student debt, get out of a job they don't enjoy as much. Well, you have to kind of eat shit for a little bit in order to not eat shit for the rest of your life. And you have to be very diligent. And so I teach people, don't let anyone manage your money. If you're smart enough to make it, you're smart enough to keep it, grow it, and invest it. At least keep it. Put it in a little safe account. Just don't touch it, and just kind of breathe for a little bit, because every dollar you spend is another hour or minute of time you're going to have to spend remaking that. So there's like a discipline layer.
Yeah.
There's that
100%.
optimism. There's that push for more because we are in the sport of business. So it kind of floats in between there. And there's no like set answer for any one person. But I think if you, I like to understand how people think, just like you, like the mental models. Like, how does someone think? Not just what they think. You may disagree completely with what they think. You may love what they think, but you might want to know how they're thinking about that. And then sometimes you want to know why, because it kind of helps supplement the mental model. But I'm a big believer in asking questions, asking for help. It took me most of my life to learn how to ask for help, just because I never had it growing up in this kind of essence. And I was just not trained on how to ask for help. And once I learned how to ask for help, and it's okay, it's a superpower to ask for help, specifically if you know how to ask for help in the
Mhm.
best way and who to ask for help in the best way, the better you get at that, the faster you'll grow. And I think the better your quality of life will be. And I want to be a father in a few years. I know that working 20 hours a day right now is okay because I love what I do, but I'm going to want to be there with my kids a little bit, which means I'm going to have to compress what I get done in 12 hours instead of 24 so that I have 6 hours to hang out with my kids every day. So
Yeah.
there's that kind of balance of lifestyle that for me, I kind of gave up years ago of saying, when I sell this company for a billion or 100 million, 70 million, all this stuff, then I'm going to get a personal trainer again, or then I'm going to, go and do this or do therapy or take a vacation to the Maldives or it's like, no, can I afford it? Is it the next best affordable step for me as an entrepreneur? Because if you burn out, you are no use to anybody. And it's a little bit harder to do the work at the end. And I know a lot of billionaires and multi-hundred millionaires that are my friends that tell me the exact same thing of, I wish I would have started working on this along the way versus waiting to the end. And then it's a little bit harder. They figure it out, but just seeing it, I've been through it, it's a little bit harder to do that. So now it doesn't have to be a trip to the Maldives. It could be a drive to a mountain and hike it. It can be a working out, taking care of your body, taking care of your sleep. And the younger you are, it doesn't seem like it matters, but it does. And so if you can take care of yourself along the way, you're going to outlast, you're going to outcompete. You're just going to be in a much better situation as an entrepreneur, a leader, a person, a friend, a husband, a dad, everything, every piece of that, every title you hold should be important. And if it's not important, get rid of the title. I mean, not being a dad and all this stuff. If you're a dad, lock in. But I think be a good friend. And maybe there's a year or two where you got to get rid of negative people in your life, negative stuff. That doesn't mean you're a bad friend. You have to take care of yourself. They say it in the airplanes, oxygen, put it on yourself first. Otherwise, it's hard to help other people if you don't know how to help yourself.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you just perfectly parlayed in the lifestyle question because I was going to say you and we don't have like a personal real relationship, but like what I see online at least, right? Like you do both, right? You do a lot of things both in business, but then you also do a lot of the fun personal stuff. And I see you like go to the concert and you go to this and that. And it's been like a big thing over the last year or two for me, like kind of quit doing all the party stuff and like overall just wasn't very interested, like to this day, not
And
interested
I've
in
done
going.
that too, by the way.
Yeah, not going to the game, not going to this, that, like, it just doesn't seem as fun. It doesn't it doesn't feel productive, when there's, like, not all that stuff included, and that stuff was just such a detriment at that time. Like, it just to me, you seem like you do a lot of things. You don't take me as the guy who's like, "Oh, no, it has to be at this time, and I have to do the ice bath, and I have to do this." It's like you have fun, you do the lifestyle, you go on the fun trips, like, obviously with people that are also doing well in life too, so there's some, like, added benefits in that part,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's cool. I feel like
And
you've really
sometimes I'll
chosen
grab
to have
my
fun.
group that, maybe they're not doing as well. And I'll say, look, I got you. You just need a flight. Get a flight there and you're in. I want you there. I need you there. And then other times they're like, I have friends with yachts and friends with jets and lots of friends with jets and yachts. And so sometimes they invite me and then I'll invite them to something else. And then sometimes it's just good old fun, a comedy show. And so I'll sit there with my girlfriend and just look up, what shows are coming up in the next week. I love going to the movie theater. It's a time where I can kind of let my brain rest. And I like horror films. Not a lot of people do, but I'm kind of in there. I'm watching it. Lets my brain rest, and it's actually productive because when I go and get a massage, it's actually productive. If I can let myself relax, try to be bored more often. When you're bored, your brain is actually doing a lot of work. The more you sleep, get a good 8 hours. And I'm not the biggest, I don't get 8 hours every night. Sometimes it's four, sometimes it's six, sometimes it's 10, where I just need, and sometimes I take a nap once a month, maybe once a week. So I kind of listen to my body a lot more nowadays. And like you said, it's not as exciting to go and pop bottles and do all this stuff every single night. There was a phase in my life where that was important, but one of the quotes that sticks with me is men who lack purpose seek entertainment. And so I think it's more important to work on your
Mhm.
purpose because you will be distracted. Gambling, drugs, alcohol, party lifestyle, those things are, you can enjoy them in doses. There's nothing wrong with that, but you enjoy them more, I think, when you have that purpose a little bit more dialed in and you go, okay, it's my buddy's birthday. We're going to dinner, we're going to a show, or we're going to a concert. And we know that Saturday night, we're not going to be building a website. We're going to be dancing at a rave. So it's like you have those kind of, it's intentional. And I
Yeah.
think you want to get to a point where your life becomes more intentional. And as you make more money and you're able to help those around you, you want to make sure you're helping yourself first. And it's not about being selfish. It's about like, the better you take care of yourself, the longer you're going to last in this game, the more rigor and more drive you'll be able to apply. The more you sleep, the better your brain will make decisions. And actually, while you're sleeping, your brain's making decisions. It's like deep research for
Yeah.
ChatGPT. That's sleep.
That's your brain.
So
Yeah.
gotta sleep a little bit. You gotta, and I have a torn meniscus, and so I haven't been able to work out and do. I like to box, ski, pickleball, tennis, swim, like and you name it. I probably like to do it. Obviously, ice hockey is not my forte, but that's where I tore my meniscus, and so I've been kind of chilling and set a little more sedentary. Where I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna get the surgery. I'm focusing and manifesting, feeling better fast. I'm going to, if I got to wear a brace for skiing, I'll wear a brace. That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm a little more intentional. I got to warm up. Like I never really had to warm up before, really. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm 32 now, which is still young, but maybe I need to warm up clearly. So now I'm a little bit more intentional when I'm going out, or if I'm going to have a night where I'm drinking, or it's kind of working. It's a lifelong process of working on your purpose, adapting your purpose, feeling good about it, and also being able to say no, which I'm always working on, because it's like, hey, let's go to this concert. Let's go to Canada. You can speak on this panel. And there was a time in my life where I had a hard time saying no to things that I felt were either fun or productive for my personal brand or my business. But I think you have to kind of build a cocoon a little bit. You don't have to be a recluse, but a little bit of a layer where you can learn to say no. You can understand your body a little bit more. I'm a big proponent. A lot of my students I have go and get a comprehensive blood panel and just see, is your testosterone low? Is your vitamin D levels low? Because I'm not a doctor, but it's going to be harder to make long-standing progress. We'll get motivation is easy. I can motivate you. You're going to be jazzed for a day, but to actually be inspired enough is going to take some effort from the other party. And so I try to focus on, yeah, let's motivate you to make the changes that the inspiration and purpose become a part of your day-to-day life. And then I don't even need to be there for you to have that built in. Everyone's answer is a little bit different, but I think keying into that. And so lifestyle is about balance. You've got to, for me, if there's like we just saw Rufus the Soul in Colorado, that's one of my favorite artists, bands ever, or whatever, performing bands, right? So like for me, I listen to Rufus the Soul pretty much every day. I've never seen them live. And so I said, you know what? Who wants to go? I'm just going to buy the tickets and I'm going to force myself to do it. And I bought them months before the show. And then we realized, oh my gosh, Rufus the Soul's next week. Do we have a hotel? Do we have this? And it was fun. And we had friends in from Scotland and they went with us. I'm like, what is the likelihood that you're staying at my house the week that we're going to Rufus the Soul? They had a blast. We had a blast. We danced and had fun. And yeah, you have a couple beers or whatever it is, or if you don't drink, that's perfect as well. Like there's no pressure, but taking care of yourself does include being a kid a little bit, having fun a little bit.
Yeah.
You do have to build that in. If it's too much, then you're gonna regret it. And you don't want
Yeah.
to live with regret. You gotta either live with pain or regret. I try to avoid regret as much as I can and have a balance where I'm working 12, 16 hours a day, hard work during the week, and then say, okay, this weekend I'm going to the spa and I'm going to do ice bath. I'm going to do sauna. I might get a massage. I'm going to kind of just chill. And those are some of my most profitable times because my brain is doing what it does best and what it's meant to do. If you're just working all the time, at some point you're going to burn out. So it's burnout prevention and mediation. Therapy has been some of the best work I've ever done. I've done years of therapy. And if you don't like a therapist, change a therapist. You don't want to go in person, do it on Zoom. Start there. We're on, the Zoom right now, essentially. So I think if you look at, and what helped me feel good about this is that even LeBron James, some of the best athletes in the world, they have a 10, 20 person team. They have a chef, nutritionist that supports the chef, the doctor, a primary care doctor. They have a sports medicine specialist, and they all talk to each other transparently and say, Ryan is having a tough week this week. I think we need to modify his diet. I don't think he's getting enough protein in the morning. He's a little lethargic in the afternoon. And so eventually, when you put together a team and friends, you keep close people to you, and ideally, even your team can recognize it, you as the leader, and say, Josh, don't worry about meetings tomorrow. We're going to go ahead and handle those. You just relax. You've done a lot this week. And that's like a blessing to be able to accept that help as well. So ask for
Yeah.
help, but also accept the help. So it's a balance, but I kind of gave up years ago of just trying to be work, kind of Gary V, which a lot of that is true. Like you got to hustle and you got to build. Like if you're not making a lot of money and you're stuck in a job you hate, it might be hard for a little bit, but doesn't mean you can't go to the park and, play some football or kind of shoot some hoops for like 2 hours and hang out for a little bit. Go watch a movie by yourself, even. That doesn't mean that you have to give up all of this stuff to be successful. I actually think you're way more successful. I've never been as successful as I am today by mixing lifestyle with
Yeah, I see
the hard work,
that.
you know?
Yeah, it's amazing. And then just I don't know. I know we had a hard stop on here, but if you have a moment to talk your info coaching, because you said a couple times in here, students, and so I think I mentioned in the beginning of this, but the initial one was that I met you was at it was in Brand Builders that time. It was Powerhouse, I think. I think
Powerhouse.
one and the same. Yeah. So you had that, and it was like a higher ticket, mid ticket, whatever, info, or I'm sorry, like mastermind style. Now you have, I think I'm still in the community and a circle and stuff like that. So like, what's your play there? Is that ecom people? Like, who's the market for that? Just what's the play? Because I also see you're
Yeah.
doing some pushes of that right now, right? On socials.
Yeah, for sure. So I took a little bit of a break between Powerhouse and now Brand Builders, right? So took a little bit of a break, had a lot of really deep projects that, again, if you're not obsessed over, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So coaching does Um, I love it and it's always going to be a part of my life, but it's not the easiest thing either, right? Sometimes I'm working with people that are making more money than me and, having to work through a lot of that does take effort. That's why when I see Tony Robbins in person, the guy's up there for 9 hours. He does not take a breath. And he not only does he not take a breath, Gabriel, he doesn't take restroom break. He doesn't drink a sip of water. Now that's just super natural. And then he goes and heals and you can see it on YouTube of how he does that. But the coaching to me is something that has always been key to me because I grew up with nothing. I didn't have those mentors early on. And I've invested millions of dollars in masterminds, coaches, all of that. And I continue to, because like I said, even LeBron James invests in that. And so being a conduit for someone that hears something in one of my podcasts or TV show or something that speaks to them, I wanted to open the door. And of course, we all have the same 24 hours, so I can't coach 24/7. But if I can create a safe space for people to think freely, speak freely, and I do a lot of one on one because that's where a lot of the bigger transformations happen. So I've opened it up. It's 99% of it is high ticket because it is one to one. That's kind of where I focus mostly. All of my 0 to 1 is pretty much free. It's on YouTube, it's my TV show, it's everywhere. 0 to 1 is I want to start something. I'm a fresh entrepreneur. I love that. But the 1 to 1 doesn't work as well in those scenarios for me because I'm on limited time.
Yeah.
So I kind of focus on 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3. 1 to 2 is scale. Let's double your profits. Let's get you a little more lifestyle mix. Let's take care of you as the founder as well. And let's look at your P&Ls. Let's look at your team. Let's look at your supply chain. So we have those, that's 1 to 2. 2 to 3 is generally preparing the business for an exit, a big fundraise, going public, some sort of event that requires refinement beyond the 1 to 2. And so I get the pleasure to meet people in the 0 to 1 and then work with them one on one in the 1 to 2. And sometimes they come ready for 2 to 3, and I'll work with them on 1 to 1 there. So whether they're in e-commerce, lead gen, I've got a student right now who's phenomenal, runs a electrician business, and so local services. It doesn't really matter because I'm a business generalist, so and I've proven that through my exits and hundreds of millions of dollars in sales that if you follow the principles, you can kind of start any business for the most part. If you're not a doctor, you can't do surgery, but like you can work with surgeons, you can partner with the surgery clinic, and you can run the marketing, the branding. So I think I've found that with the thousands of people that I've coached now, I've been able to help almost every single one of them, no matter the situation they're in or the business that they're in. And so I get a lot of joy out of that, even though it's not easy and it does take up time. Instead of, going on a date with my girlfriend, I'm spending 2 or 3 hours one on one, but I have support around me and they understand that community, family, and business. If I can get a third, a third, a third as close as I can in a week, I'm a much happier, fulfilled person. So I know that I have to keep that door open. So opening that door again the last few months, um, we've been inundated with people that want access to it. So now I've opened up a little bit more small group. We have a couple events coming up next year where we're able to kind of mastermind together. And I get to bring some of my friends that have never spoken on stage and don't want to. I kind of force them into it so that we can get some of those breakthroughs that are built off the curriculum's built off of who's there. And so it's just fun. I love being able to teach. I think teaching something, and also I'm learning, by the way. So it's selfishly, I'm learning at the same time. Selflessly, I get to teach and help people through these breakthroughs in business and in life. And I've always been an old soul doing this so long. So I get to work with 70-year-olds. I get to work with 21-year-olds. And so it's kind of all across the gamut. And ultimately, teaching, I think, is the crystallization of learning something. If you can learn something well enough, apply it. I never teach anything I'm not doing myself. So if I can apply it, it also gives me a little bit of revenge on the younger self that didn't have that help necessarily. Not like I'm mad at it or anything. I've done okay. So it's like, how can I help someone accelerate where they want to get to? Help them think about where they really want to get to. There's no judgment or anything like that. So it's been good. You know, I think being able to build, being able to help others build, help others achieve what they're looking for in their life faster, because my brother passed away at 42. I've seen a lot of friends and family members that and not to be morbid, where it's like you don't know when's your last day, but you want to live every day to your fullest. And if I can help others reach their goals without compromising themselves, I think that's something that I feel responsible for in a way. I feel responsible to serve in that nature and to be as transparent as I can be, because that's where I think the best teaching happens. So it's kind of like all in one.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
just love it.
100%.
I'm sure you feel the same way. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I love doing it. And if I could do more of it, I would.
Yeah.
We're going to figure out ways to do, bigger groups at some point, small group and one-on-one, and kind of events, masterminds are kind of where I have the most fun. And ultimately, I'm not going to do it if I'm not enjoying it. And otherwise, I do hundreds of podcasts, TV show. I kind of share as much as I can for free in the open world. But of course, I have to value my time at some point. There's an opportunity cost to my time. And if I'm going to help someone get there, it's generally 10 times worth whatever they're paying me almost instantly. And so I love it. They love it. I've never had an issue in any of the
Yeah.
businesses doing that. So I think I'll continue to do this for the rest of my life. Maybe write a book or something, but not for the ego. I'll write it with no name. It doesn't even matter, but just to share, because there's someone out there that might hear something. I've heard this story probably thousands of times, maybe tens of thousands to our DMs, of someone hearing something in a podcast and they were feeling suicidal, or they were really down, or they were stuck. So many of these things. And I go, really? That podcast only has a few thousand views, but that one view could improve a life, save a life, change a life. And I do feel responsible for doing that along the way.
Yeah, 100%. No, this is fantastic. I mean, I just, like we talked about before, they started sharing YouTube videos, and the people that come into the comments and in DMs and are implementing things like the amount of, oh, I implemented this and we doubled, or oh, now we're at 300K in cash collected and it's all profit because it's organic, and like just it's crazy when people can deploy these depending on how ready they are to do it. But this is fantastic. I'm planning to move to Scottsdale, so I'm apartment shopping right now, but I'm gonna
Well,
make the
let me
move.
know if I can help. We know all the areas, and I'll be splitting time in November between here and Nashville. So I'll
Oh
be,
yeah, you
uh,
like it?
in- yeah, yeah, I'll be just south of Nashville, a little bit more uh, foresty, kind of mix up the vibe a little bit, see
Yeah,
what it does. I'm born and raised here in Phoenix, so I've never fully lived somewhere else.
yeah.
So I'm gonna,
Franklin's a good vibe.
yeah,
That's
yeah, that's exactly. I'll be
oh
just north
yeah,
of Franklin and Brentwood, so
yeah. Okay, yeah.
I'll be in between Nashville and Franklin.
Yeah, no, it's a great spot. So cool, man. Yeah, we'll stay in touch, and then yeah, we got each other's phone numbers now, so we'll go back and forth with some of this info coaching details.
Yeah,
But
for sure, brother. I
you're an
appreciate
absolute
you.
legend. I
And,
appreciate this.
you are as well, man, and I'm very proud of you, and, it's a pleasure to be on with you, and we can do as many of these as we want, and, I'm open to it, and I'll be texting you over the weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Everybody that's, watching live, and Gabriel, Nashville is great, absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in, and anytime you want me back on, Ryan, and
Yeah,
just
we'll do
getting
some updates.
out of
We'll do
that.
some updates. Maybe you'll
That's
sell something.
2014.
Maybe I'll sell something.
I'm not gonna get over it, dude. I might have to print that thing out and just put
You
it.
might.
I mean, that's kinda crazy, but anyway, brother, I appreciate you. Thank you. Have a
Yeah,
great weekend. I'll shoot you a text in
100%.
a sec.
All right, talk soon.
Yep, see you later, bro.